So if we just kind of start at 30,000 feet, the political and geopolitical issues that I think we're now dealing with and our clients are dealing with as it relates to bringing events to the United States have changed with the travel ban or any discussion around visas and travel ban issues, I think is having a dampening effect on global groups looking at the United States. There's still reason to come, there's still value in coming, but the conversation has changed for those types of events in thinking about bringing an event to the United States. Can they get everybody in that they want to get in? And would their audience still support a decision that's viewed as supporting the United States, whether that's economically or politically, in light of the changes?
Right. I think hugely important in doing international business, regardless of whether events go outside or inside their expectations. And I think what we need to be are the facilitators of those expectations. We've talked about, the issues that are out there are so huge and they are so important to get right in terms of the communication. But we also need to be cognizant of the fact that whoever who decides to connect to the United States and hold their events here, they need to work according to a certain set of understandings. And doing business in the United States is different than doing business in other parts of the world. So how do you think that, bringing it back to what the practicalities of this are, what do you think, does that have an effect as well on what you were just saying, or is that just the larger issue that you're
Right, does it balance out somewhere
balance
in there?
out?
And I think it does. In other words, again, every organization is going to have different decision factors about why and where an event goes.
Right.
And I think for many organizations, even with that, which they're facing everywhere else in the globe, are the positives that come from doing an event in the United States. Obviously, is just the size and scale of the market that we have here in the U.S., whether that's from an attendee standpoint or even just media. Things get blown up larger when they're in the U.S. in many cases than they do elsewhere in the world, or represent more revenue opportunities for an organization, or represent a chance to do something bigger as it relates to thought leadership in their industry. So there are still lots of good reasons why you'd bring an event to the U.S. But to your broader point, what are some of those advantages? And you're right, we definitely do business differently in the U.S. I think one of the big points is the transparency of the way we do business in the U.S., and therefore the legal structure that we operate within is a huge plus, because whether it's our accounting standards or our legal standards, or just the way we are as Americans doing business here in the U.S. and globally, is this transparency. It's all there. There's nothing hidden. We have to report things a certain way given our accounting standards. So there is just no question about how your money's being handled, the legal structure you're operating within. That provides some clarity for organizations that I think there's huge value in, and I hear that routinely from our clients who are global physicians in many cases, or global scientists that have done business all over the world, and they say it's so much easier here simply because we know and can trust what we're getting. And that isn't always the case elsewhere.
I think that's hugely important, and we're not implying in any sort of way that wouldn't be the case in many other countries, but just that the definition of what clarity is and the definition of what transparency is, it might be slightly different.
The operating standards.
The operating standards are different, so that's important to know. It's also important to know that things like banking and the transfer of data, privacy, et cetera, those are all things that are important things when you're dealing with international meetings, but they're also important to know that they're different in the United States than, for instance, in Europe. And even the transfer of data are important points. Europe has very restricted laws on privacy. The US has very strong laws on privacy as well, but they are slightly different. So you just need to make sure, and that's the importance of companies like ours, to be able to deal with that type of thing, because that affects your business immediately.
Exactly.
The
And it
fact-
keeps changing.
And it
which-
keeps
so it's a
and it
moving
ke-
target.
and it really keeps
Yeah.
changing. Again, it's
But
so
again,
important.
that's why the experts, you need the experts on your side to help you navigate through those changes and through those different standards to
That's
help
right.
you get there.
That's right. And then things like tax here in the US is very different. And what you need to understand as well as an organization coming into the US is that not all the states are the same.
Right.
I remember really well doing as a European, doing an event in the northeast of the US, assuming that banking was one system in the US, and it's not.
Right, and then I think the other thing that we offer is obviously the ability to connect the incoming client with the assets, as broad as the assets may be in the entire United
That's right.
States, to be able to help make those meetings successful. And that's where we talked about, whether it's partnering with a destination, but going beyond that to actually look at what assets can we marshal, what strategic thought process can we bring to the event to guarantee its success and understand the outcomes and help drive to those outcomes.
Absolutely.